Welcome to the deep dive, where we dive deep. We sift through your research so you don't have to. And let me tell you, you've given us some truly fascinating stuff to work with this time around.
It is a really interesting topic.
This time, we're taking a deep dive into ancient DNA, tracing your ancestry back to, get this, Neanderthals and Denisovans.
It's incredible what we can learn from just a little bit of ancient DNA.
Right, it's like time travel, but with, genetic code.
Yeah.
Our mission is to uncover how these discoveries have completely changed how we view human history. So get ready, because your family tree is about to get way more interesting. Now, the year 1856, it's in the source material, and it marks a pivotal moment for understanding human evolution. What happened then?
1856 was when Neanderthal remains were first discovered. This wasn't just finding some old bones. This was like finding a window into the past 40,000 years old. It really it sparked over a century of research into figuring out how we're connected to these ancient humans.
I can only imagine what it must have been like to hold something that old, that connected to us. But how do scientists even get usable DNA from something that ancient? And what's different about ancient DNA, compared to, say, trying to extract DNA from dinosaurs?
Ah, that's the tricky part. Ancient DNA, or aDNA as researchers call it, it's incredibly fragile. It breaks down over time, so the older it is, well, the harder it is to isolate and analyze. Think of it like a jigsaw puzzle. Most of the pieces are missing, and the ones you do have are faded and damaged.
That's a great analogy.
Scientists use some incredibly precise techniques to extract and then amplify those tiny fragments, essentially piecing together a genetic code from thousands of years ago.
Yeah.
And to answer your question about dinosaur DNA, unfortunately, no Jurassic Park anytime soon.
Oh, man.
It's just too old that genetic material is long gone. But we can extract DNA from things that are tens of thousands of years old, which leads us to the very interesting story of the quagga.
The quagga. Okay, you're going to have to tell me more about this.
The quagga was, well, picture a zebra-like animal that went extinct in the 1880s. Sad, but not unusual, right?
Right?
Here's the thing. It was the first successful ancient DNA sequencing. Back in 1984. It was a major breakthrough and paved the way for scientists to analyze DNA from other extinct species, including our Neanderthal relatives.
So, from a zebra-like creature to our ancient human cousins. It's amazing how scientific discoveries can lead in such unexpected directions. Now, I read that in the 1990s, researchers wanted to find out if Neanderthals and modern humans ever, interbred, so they used ancient DNA to get an answer. What did they find?
Well, the 1990s, that was really the beginning of ancient DNA research. Back then, researchers could only analyze very small bits of DNA specifically, mitochondrial DNA, which is passed down only from the mother. The findings were really intriguing. Neanderthal mtDNA was distinct from that of modern humans, but that was just one tiny piece of the puzzle.
It's like reading the first page of a mystery novel. There's a lot more to uncover. I bet scientists were eager to delve deeper into the Neanderthal genome. What changed that allowed them to do that?
You're telling me. And like it often does, technology came to the rescue. In the 2000s, massively parallel sequencing it was revolutionary. Scientists went from analyzing small snippets of DNA to sequencing the entire genome, all the DNA from ancient samples. It completely transformed the field.
So instead of a single puzzle piece, they had the whole puzzle box in their hands. That must have been a game changer for understanding Neanderthals.
It absolutely was. This technology led to a huge discovery in 2010, something that rewrote our understanding of human history. Neanderthals didn't just interbreed with humans, they left a lasting mark on our DNA. You and I, we likely carry some of that DNA today.
Wait, are you saying I have Neanderthal DNA?
You, my friend, along with most people who don't have purely African ancestry, carry a little bit of Neanderthal DNA in every cell of your body.
No way. That is incredible. How much of our DNA is from Neanderthals, and how in the world did scientists figure that out?
So people with non-African ancestry inherited, on average, about 1.5% to 2% of their DNA from Neanderthals. To figure this out, scientists used a technique called admixture linkage disequilibrium. Yeah, it's a mouthful.
It's quite a mouthful.
It basically lets researchers identify chunks of DNA that are inherited together from our ancient ancestors.
Okay.
By analyzing these patterns, they can estimate when interbreeding happened. And in this case, they traced that Neanderthal-human interbreeding back to about 45,000 to 50,000 years ago. That's even before modern humans migrated out of Africa.
Wow, that is way further back than I would have thought.
That's right.
Each of us is walking around with a piece of our ancient past inside us. But the story doesn't end there, does it? We have another relative to meet, the mysterious Denisovans.
Ah, yes, the Denisovans. Their story is even more incredible than the Neanderthals. They were discovered through just a tiny fragment of bone, and they've completely changed our understanding of the human family tree.
Denisovans sounds like something straight out of, I don't know, a fantasy novel. Who were these mysterious relatives and how did they even pop up on our radar?
Well, their discovery really highlights how even the smallest discoveries can unlock these huge secrets about our past. It all started with a single finger bone. Can you believe that?
Just one bone.
Found in a cave in Siberia, Denisova Cave, which is where they got their name from, Denisovans. And get this, they were able to extract DNA from this little fragment. What they found, well, it was astonishing.
One finger bone. It's incredible to think that such a small piece of the past could rewrite everything. What was so unique about this Denisovan DNA?
It didn't match anything they'd seen before. It wasn't Neanderthal, and it wasn't quite modern human either. Further analysis, well, it revealed that the Denisovans were a distinct lineage, like a sister group to Neanderthals, and they lived around the same time.
So, another ancient human relative, just living alongside Neanderthals and early humans. It's amazing. But if the only remains we've found are in Siberia, how on earth did their DNA end up in modern populations, specifically in Melanesia? That's on the other side of the world.
It's a great question, and it baffled researchers for a long time. See, Denisovan ancestry is highest in Melanesians, which suggests that there were interactions, interbreeding between Denisovans and the ancestors of people living in Melanesia today.
Okay, so how do they meet? Were Denisovans spread out all across Asia and Oceania? Did they make some epic journey across the globe, only leaving a few traces behind?
It's a bit more complicated than just a single migration. The source material, it highlights a study that actually identified three distinct Denisovan ancestries.
Three.
One of them matches the Denisovans from that cave in Siberia. The other two, though, these lineages were found exclusively in Papuan populations. And get this, these lineages, they split off from those Siberian Denisovans around, you ready for this? 300,000 years ago.
Hold on. 300,000 years ago? So you're saying?
Denisovans were in Oceania long before modern humans even showed up. They must have made the journey separately hundreds of thousands of years ago. It's incredible. Talk about rewriting history with a single finger bone.
It's mind-blowing. All our assumptions about the timeline of human migration totally upended. But with only a few bone fragments and some DNA, how can scientists even begin to know what these Denisovans looked like? It seems like trying to recreate a detailed portrait from a handful of scattered pixels.
You're right, it's a massive challenge. And for a long time, all researchers had were those Siberian bone fragments. They knew they existed. They knew they were different. But what they actually looked like physically, that was a total mystery. But there is one bone, a jawbone to be precise, that provides some tantalizing clues. It's called the Shaham mandible.
The Shahe mandible. What's the story there, and how does it relate to the Denisovans?
Picture this. It's 1980. A Tibetan monk discovers this unusual jawbone tucked away in a cave high up on the Tibetan plateau. Fast forward 30 years, and this seemingly insignificant jawbone, they call it the Jihe mandible, well, it becomes crucial to our understanding of the Denisovans.
A jawbone in a Tibetan cave. It sounds like something straight out of Indiana Jones. But what's the connection to the Denisovans? Thousands of miles away in Siberia.
That's the remarkable part. Researchers, they first tried to get DNA from the Zero mandible, but it was too degraded. This thing was old, like 160,000 years old, so they tried something different. Protein analysis. Believe it or not, sometimes proteins, they can actually survive longer than DNA.
Really? So proteins are like the backup copy, like an ancient script that we can still read even when the DNA has crumbled away?
Exactly. They analyzed those ancient proteins in the jawbone, and they found a match, a specific protein variant. And guess what? It was identical to the Denisovan genome from that Siberian finger bone.
No way. So this jawbone, discovered thousands of miles from Siberia, it belonged to a Denisovan. That's an incredible connection.
It is. The Jiahe mandible, it's the first physical evidence of Denisovans outside of Siberia, which means their range stretched across a huge area. It's just one piece of the puzzle, but it gives us a glimpse, a peek into what these mysterious Denisovans might have actually looked like.
This is truly groundbreaking stuff. We've gone from a single finger bone to a much clearer understanding of Denisovans, where they lived, how they interacted with other human groups. But I have to ask, what about us? What did we inherit from these ancient ancestors, aside from a more shall we say, diverse family tree, did any of that genetic mingling actually do anything for us? Did we get any cool traits from our Neanderthal or Denisovan ancestors?
That is the million-dollar question, isn't it? Did those ancient encounters with Neanderthals and Denisovans give us anything beneficial? Well, as it turns out, those tiny fragments of DNA, they might be much more important than we ever imagined.
So we've learned that Neanderthals and Denisovans, they weren't so different from us after all. They interbred, they migrated, and they definitely left their mark on our DNA. But did any of that genetic exchange actually benefit us? Like, did we inherit any cool traits from our Neanderthal or Denisovan ancestors?
That's a question that has fueled a ton of research, and it's led to some really fascinating discoveries. While it seems like a lot of that archaic DNA got weeded out by natural selection over time, there's some pretty compelling examples of ancient genes giving modern humans a leg up, so to speak.
Okay, so it's not all about like big brows and slouching. There were some actual perks to inheriting those archaic genes.
Exactly. And one of the most fascinating examples mentioned in the research you provided involves this gene called EPAS1. This gene plays a critical role in how our bodies adapt to low oxygen environments like, high altitudes.
So if you're like planning on climbing Mount Everest, you might want to thank your Denisovan ancestors. What's the link between this gene and our ancient relatives?
Well, researchers have been studying the genomes of Tibetan people. They're incredibly well adapted to living at high altitudes. And they found something pretty amazing. The variant of the EPAS1 gene that's common in Tibetans is almost identical to the one found in, get this, the Denisovan genome.
Wow. So you're saying that a gene variant from an extinct human lineage passed down over thousands and thousands of years is the reason why modern-day Tibetans can thrive in one of the most extreme environments on Earth.
Exactly. It's a perfect example of something called adaptive integration. That's where a gene from one species is introduced into another through interbreeding, and that introduced gene provides some kind of advantage. So in this case, that Denisovan version of EPA1, it likely helped early humans adapt to the thin air of the Tibetan plateau.
It really makes you wonder how many other adaptations, big or small, we might have inherited from these ancient encounters. Are there any other examples of archaic genes that benefit modern humans?
Oh, absolutely. There are clues scattered throughout our genome. Researchers have found evidence suggesting that Neanderthal genes might influence our immune response. That maybe helped our ancestors fight off new pathogens as they've migrated out of Africa.
So a little Neanderthal DNA might have given our immune systems an extra boost. Handy. Any other intriguing possibilities?
Research is ongoing, but scientists are looking into the influence of archaic genes on everything from metabolism and skin pigmentation to even, well, hair and eye color. We're still piecing together the puzzle of our genetic inheritance. But with each new discovery, we get a deeper appreciation for the profound impact our ancient relatives have had on us.
It's kind of humbling when you think about it. These ancient encounters, they're not just stories from the distant past. They're alive in our very cells, shaping who we are today. It's amazing to think that something like our ability to thrive at high altitudes, or maybe even the way our immune systems work, could be a direct result of these ancient encounters.
It really is remarkable. And to think, this is just the beginning. We're just starting to unravel the mysteries held within ancient DNA. Who knows what incredible connections we'll find and what else we'll learn about our place in, well, the grand scheme of life.
A huge thanks to you, our expert, for guiding us through this incredible journey through the world of ancient DNA. It's been mind-blowing. And to you, our listeners, thanks for joining us on this deep dive. If today's exploration has sparked your curiosity, and I have a feeling it has, be sure to check out the show notes for more information. Until next time, keep those brains buzzing.